Hey everyone, welcome back to Miniature Painting 101, a series of videos where I teach you all about painting miniatures from start to finish and everything in between. And this is part 114, Warm White. How to paint white using warmer tones instead of colder ones. Going back to what I was talking about, warm versus cold tones. And today we'll be painting a warm white on this Tyranid Gaunt on his carapace. Now the key is with whites. Now whites are a really cool color, white in general, because you can actually highlight up to white using many different colors, cold colors such as blue and purples. I've even seen warm colors, yellows, browns, and you can all bring it up to white, and in the end, your eye will actually think it's white. So today we'll be using Screaming Skull to create the warmth of this color, because Screaming Skull is slightly off-white in the warmer side of the spectrum. So we're going to thin it down using some Lahmian Medium, and carefully apply two nice solid coats of this thinned down Screaming Skull to the carapace of the Tyranid. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap with the gray primer just so that there's a little bit of a kind of a shadowing along the carapace, and I'm just going to carefully paint it all in on the carapace. And as I mentioned, the cool thing about white is you can actually highlight up from a deep purple, a deep blue, to very cold tones, and you can also use these slight off-whites like Screaming Skull to create warmer tones. But in the end, your eye will basically think it's white. It's kind of cool how it tricks your eye into thinking it's white, but it'll be a lot more warmer of a tone. And this is just going back, as I said, to my video about warm versus cold tones and what makes a warmer tone versus a colder tone. And so I'm just going to take my time and carefully get a nice solid coat over this with my Screaming Skull. Now I do thin down my paints as always so that they don't go on too clumpy, and then after this I'm going to just do a second coat off camera just so that it's nice and it sets the foundation of our white before proceeding to the next color, because as you can see, it doesn't go on perfectly well after a single coat, but it's better to do two thin coats and not risk removing some of the details due to a clumpy coat. So I have a nice thin brush, and I'm just going to carefully keep painting. Today I'll do this in real time just because it's not a lot of steps in this, and it's not too complex of a tutorial. So I figured might as well just do it in real time. That way you can see my actual work and it's not that sped up. But as you can see, I'm just leaving a little bit of gray along the edges so that it looks like a little bit of shadowing. And when that was done, after the second coat, I then took some Skull White, which is the white, of course, we're going to build up to, and I added it to the Screaming Skull. I use a wet palette, so it's not going to be a problem with drying out or anything. And so we'll add it to the Screaming Skull. So it's a 1-to-1 mix of Screaming Skull and Skull White, making it a slight off-white, a very, like an eggshell basically. And we're going to start at the exterior parts of the carapace and work our way inwards, leaving a bit of the previous coat of just Screaming Skull along the very center parts of the carapace. Now it looks a little strong right now, but it will of course dry a little bit darker and more blended in, because once again it is pretty thin down due to the Lahmian Medium. So as you can see, I'm just going along the edges of the carapace and then filling it in, leaving a bit of the Screaming Skull only along the edges. And already you can see it almost looks like a white, but it's the slightly warmer tones. We're going the eggshells, the very, very light browns on that side of the white, versus next week, which I'll show how to do a cold white using blues. As you can see, I'm just going to keep going along the edges of the carapace, working my way inwards, just taking my time and getting a nice coat. And as I said, it will dry much more blended in because it always dries a little bit darker than it is now when it's wet. And I intentionally kept the body gray so that you can easily see the contrast between the body and then the warm white of the carapace. Then I repeat this for his head, just going along the edges, carefully, a little bit at a time. Take my time, make sure not to, and just leave a bit of the Screaming Skull. And that was completely dry. I then took White Scars just by itself. Once again, thinned it down with some Lamy Medium and just went along the very edges of the carapace. And just by highlighting this last step of white, it instantly kind of tricks the eyes into thinking that it is a white. So as you can see now, I did not overexpose this take at all. Just by doing along the very edges of the carapace, essentially we're kind of tricking the eyes into thinking that this area is white. And that's what kind of happens even if you use grays or blues, or it always interprets as white. It's a really cool phenomenon. I don't really want to go into too much into that, but using the browns before this, we've created the warmth of the white versus just a pure white appearance or a colder white appearance. See, I just took my time. Not too many steps in this. Obviously, you can do more colors to create even more warmth, but I just wanted to go with the three colors: the Screaming Skull, one mixed with white, and then the white by itself. As you see, I'm not actually putting that much white on it, and it will dry slightly more blended in, as again, I thinned it down with some Lamy Medium. And that's it. And in the end, this is what the model looks like. As you can see, it basically comes off as white. But we didn't put that much white on it at all. It was off-whites, the warmer side of the scale. And in the end, we've been able to create a white carapace, but it's a warmer white to it. And that's essentially using the temperature scale of colors to your advantage to create a warmer tone on the model.
So thank you as always for watching this episode of Miniature Painting 101. I really hope you enjoyed it. And of course, stay tuned for next week's episode, part 115, which is just around the corner. But if you don't want to wait for next week's episode, check out The Warp. Click on the link below for a free 14-day trial to my premium YouTube channel. We're not going to get to see the next 6 months worth of Miniature Painting 101 episodes for anyone else. You get to see over dozens and dozens and dozens of painting tutorials, battle reports, face-off episodes, an Airbrush 101 series, and a Q&J series. Tons of content that you'll love, so go check it out. Till next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.